Hiya, I'm that James Wisdom, and today I've got a Kickstarter unboxing for you of Cascadia. So hello everybody, today I'm going to be unboxing this game Cascadia, which I got on Kickstarter. Technically it's actually my girlfriend's game, she backed it on Kickstarter, but I'm doing an unboxing on her behalf. The game itself takes 30 to 45 minutes and is for 1 to 4 players. It's a tile drafting game. And laying game, I guess. So you draft tiles from a central pool and lay them in your own board in front of you to gain points by creating patterns. And the main theme of the game is, of course, the collection of animals upon these patterns. So the idea being that you are creating habitats with your tiles, and those attract the different animals or allow the different animals to stay there. And depending on what animals you've got and what animal scoring cards are out and what patterns you've created in your tiles will depend on your score at the end of the game. It looks like a relatively lightweight game that has enough complexity to be interesting for more seasoned players of tile placement games or tile drafting games. So this should be a good one, I think, to share with your friends or get new people into games or play with family, that kind of thing. The box is quite nice. It's got really nice art, as you've seen on the front there. It's got some nice art on the back. You mostly get tiles in here, some nice wooden pieces with printed animals on them, a bag and some cards. That's the main kind of stuff that you've got in here. So let's get it to the table, open it up and have a look at that. So this is Cascadia. You can see the box here. It is a game by Randy Flynn, illustrated by Beth Sobel. And you can see it's really nice art, basically. You've got stags all over the place. It's by Flatout Games and AEG. But this is, you know, it's a nice looking box. We've got a nice set of stuff on here. So take a journey to the Pacific Northwest as you compete to create the most harmonious ecosystem in Cascadia. You know, and then it tells you basically how the game works a little bit, but, you know, turns are simple. Select a tile or token, set and place each in your expanding ecosystem. As I already mentioned, it is a 30 to 45 minute game, 1 to 4 players. So there is a single player version of the game if you are interested in single player, and it is 10 plus. Let's just go straight in and tear it all open. So there you go, it's a nice feeling box. I quite like the feel of the box as it opens. So I'm slowly opening it up. I'm actually revealing art at the sides as I do this, which is quite nice. So no art on the inside of the lid there. Here is your Cascadia rulebook. I'll show you just as I'm doing this the sides here, as I say. Nice art reflecting the tiles, these hexagonal tiles that they use. They also use these in Calico, which is by the same company. You'll see a video of that on this channel if you want to go and check that out. I haven't put it up yet, but it will be there. Opening the rulebook up, you can see the basic stuff about the region, about the game, and about the team here. So a little about page there. I'll let you pause and read that if you want to. The components of the game, it's going to be mostly tiles with some cards and some wooden components. There's 100 wooden components in here, plus 85 habitat tiles, 21 cards, and then 5 starter habitat tiles. Now these are the ones that each player starts with. This is the habitat you start with. So there's a score pad. So you actually write your scores down in this game to calculate them at the end. It's one of those ones where you may need a pen. Nice bag, some extra tokens. I'm not sure if these are wooden or board, but they should be nice, hopefully, either way. Setup, look at these nice, simple, straightforward instructions. These are quite nice instructions. You've got 2, 3 or 4 player setups here. I assume the 1 player setup is in the back of the book as an extra thing as well. Turn summary there, again pausing through these relatively quickly, so if you want to pause and have a look at these, you are welcome to. They're all available on Board Game Geek, as well as I'm sure you are aware. Check out Board Game Geek, linked in the description of this video as well. I always put a link to the Board Game Geek page for a board game, as well as the home page of the company that made it. So here we are, our solo mode rules at the end as well. Some variants, if you want to play some variants to the game. and then some wildlife scoring cards, just to give you a little bit more explanation of the scoring that you can have. You're going to have different cards for each kind of type of animal per game, and each type of animal has 4 different variations on the scoring, I believe. Achievements, don't know what that really is, but we can have a look. Scenario achievements, so you got different scenarios you can play out potentially here as well. Some interesting stuff here, and some just really nice kind of animals. Descriptions of the animals, nice bit of information about the animals here, which is quite nice. The Chinook salmon, red-tailed hawk, I love a red-tailed hawk, red fox, Roosevelt, elk, and a grizzly bear, classics. Lovely. So again, nice instructions there. Slight bend in the back of these instructions for whatever reason, but you know, not the end of the world. Let's move on from the instructions. We now have the tiles. So these are the individual tiles. I won't take them all out. There are 5 boards. It looks like 5 of these. It's nice. These are the fronts of the boards, so you can see on each of these boards the different kind of territories and habitats that are being created here. So you've got woodland or forest, you've got, I think these are probably marshland, you've got oceans or rivers, and then you've got sand or beaches, as well as mountains as well. These little things here, these are tokens for, I think they call them wildlife or nature tokens. Actually, I think they call them nature tokens, if I'm not mistaken. And basically what you've got on the top here are these icons here, tell us what animals can live in these habitats. So these are the animals you can place on here. You can only place 1 animal per tile, but you've got options for certain tiles. And they all mean different things. Obviously I'm not going to go through the full rules at this stage, but that's the general idea. The backs are all exactly the same, so you've got these kind of sandy, kind of topographical map style things on them. Okay, that's the back of board 1. Got board 2 here as well. There's board 3, a lot more river in board 3, and you can actually see how they were intended to match up. You can see all the rocks kind of matching up here, which is quite nice. Again, as I say, exactly the same on the back. The pinecone ones are double-sided here. 4 of 5, nice. More sand and water combinations there, combinations with 3 animals as well as 2 animals as well as 1 animal, so you can only have salmon in this watery thing here. Now this is actually one of the starting tiles. You can see that it's kind of 3 of these hexagons connected together in a little sort of stack, and each player will start with one of these, and there's 1 per board. So you'll have seen 1 on this board, there's 1 on this board, 1 on this board, 1 on this board, and 1 on this board. So finally then, just looking at that last board properly, we've got more mountains here, more red-tailed hawks in that. We've got more pine cones. Looking nice. It's just some kind of nice boards there. Let's see what's underneath these boards and see what nice things we get underneath those. Here are our wooden tokens with our printed animals on them. We'll get those out in just a second, but let's just, before we do that, have a look at the nice bag. Again, nice bag. Not super thick, but a decent quality nonetheless. Nice drawstring. It's got an actual ribboned, like thick ribbon drawstring here. Oh, not easy to pull, I have to say, but you know, will work. I'm sure it will loosen up as time goes on. Similar style to the backs of the boards here. So we've got the topographical map pattern here. It's the same on this. This is obviously green rather than the beige or the brown colour. But generally speaking, very nice. Got the Cascadia print on it. It's nice to have a custom bag for these things. And the tokens will go in that. You also get a bunch of different bags here, which is brilliant, useful, very useful stuff. Especially if they haven't provided kind of inserts and things here. Although that said, looking at this, if I just pull this out a bit now, you can see actually that there is within the cardboard insert a little tray where you can put all of your hexagonal tiles. Will all fit down there, I assume, in a nice stack down there. Or you can put them in one of the bags, or any number of things you could do with that. But they do provide some nice Ziploc bags to go with those things. Going back to look at the cards here, so we've got some nice oversized cards. I believe there are some extra cards here. I think these were either Kickstarter exclusive or some sort of Kickstarter bonus cards, but I'm not entirely sure. But there's some extra cards there, and then these are the base cards that you play with as normal. And these are just the scoring cards. We'll have a look at those in just a sec. Before we do, let's look at the scoring pad. So at the end of the game, you can go through and you can mark who has got the most score, or what score everybody's got for bears, elk, for the salmon, for the hawk, for the fox, and for wildlife in general. And then you've got the different environment scores as well. You get extra points for having the wildlife tokens left over, these little pinecone tokens left over, and I presume then this is the final score tallied up as well. But you just get a nice thick book of those. They're double-sided as well, so you can play lots of games before you run out. So let's keep that out, and I should get rid of the box. So we've seen the insert. It's just a cardboard insert, nothing special there. And then let's go to the cards next. So I'm going to open this up and just run through all the cards. These should just be scoring cards. There's quite a lot of them, as you can see. If you look down there, it's quite a decent number considering they're just scoring cards. But there's 4 grizzly bear scoring cards, where you basically score points for these patterns on the cards. In this case, you have 2 bears next to one another with no bears around them, for example. 3 bears in this pattern with no bears around them. Any shape of 1, 2 or 3 bears with no bears around them. And then you get group bonuses for +3 for all 3 group sizes. So, you know, more complicated ones. And what's quite nice here is you can actually see that it's not only grizzly bear, but it's mating pairs is the name of that scoring card, and then you've got mother and cubs is the name of that scoring card, and then you've got families is that scoring card, and then finally another one, very similar thing, but big groups of grizzly bears there as well. So those are cool. Those are the grizzly bear ones. Next then we've got the Roosevelt elks, and this is for combinations of these, so 1, 2 next to one another, 3 next to one another, and 4. I believe these have to be in a row, in a line across, and it does actually say lines here, Roosevelt elk lines. Then we've got formations, so specific formations, either 1, 2 next to one another, 3 in a little pyramid, or 4 in a diamond. Herds in these specific patterns. And I guess you score depending on how far into the pattern you've got there. That will be explained further in the rulebook. I haven't looked through those, so I don't know exactly, but that's cool. Herds. Rings. Oh, that's fun. So you've got to make a ring of elk there, and depending on how many you get in the ring, you get 21 points if you get a full ring of 6. If you just get the 3, you get 8 points, and that's basically how the scoring works. So that's the elk. The red fox. Nearby animals. Now this one is interesting because this is having a red fox in the centre and then surrounding that by other animals, and depending on how many other animals you surround it with, you get more points, up to 5, because it's the number of animals that you can actually place. There's only 5 different animals, so it's just a point for every different type of animal around it. So nearby animals for that one. Then you've got nearby pairs, so that's another thing where you're surrounding them in pairs. So we've got 2 grizzlies there, we've got 2 salmon there, we've got 2 hawks there, so you would get 3 pairs for 7 points for that one. Nearby related, so that's surrounding it with animals of a similar type. We've got dynamic duos, that's fun, just as a phrase. I was like saying dynamic duo, and then that's just pairs next to one another, or pairs surrounding pairs of foxes. That's cool as well. Then we've got the red-tailed hawks. As I say, I really like red-tailed hawks. I was a big fan of Tobias in the Animorphs, and he was stuck as a red-tailed hawk for a long time. So I always loved red-tailed hawks from that. I learned lots of facts from those books. Anyway, solitary, so having 1 surrounded by no other animals will get you a bunch of points there. Connected, so you've got not surrounded but separated by 2. So 1 gap in the middle, that's quite good. You've got network. Oh, and this is all of them being 2 spaces apart. That's interesting. So line of sight from one another. That's interesting. You'd have to read a bit more about that, but that's an interesting scoring mechanic there. And then territorial. So this is them being separated by other animals then. That's interesting as well. Really cool. Like some difference in the complexity of the scoring there. So the red-tailed hawks, so far more complex than the elk, but also the fox is more complex than the elk. Then we've got the salmon. So we've got long run, so just a long run of them in a row. We've got short run, so again in a row in a pattern connected to one another, effectively along a river, I guess. It's sort of connecting rivers together. Families, So another similar thing, probably a specific pattern. And then surrounded, so have a little river of them and then surround them with other animals, and you get every salmon is connected to another animal, presumably gets 1 point for every salmon and 1 point for every animal it's connected to. So that could easily stack up 2 more points. It's also worth noting that the actual backs of the cards are really nice as well. So these are the grizzly bear cards, which have got this really nice graphic design pattern on the back in brown. You've got the elk, which has got this kind of yellowish colour. You've then got the red fox, which is unsurprisingly in this bright orange. You've then got the red-tailed hawk in the blue that they've been using for that. And of course the Chinook salmon in this really beautiful salmon colour there. And that's it. So then you've got double-sided on that card as well, which is slightly different scoring there. So you've got intermediate variant and the family variant, depending on which version of the game you're playing, how difficult you want to make it, basically. But those are the cards. Let's have a look at these extra ones as well. As I say, I think these are Kickstarter exclusive ones. I'm not entirely sure because I'm not the one who actually backed this, as I said in the intro, but we have got one more for each of these. Yeah, and this looks like just a mini expansion based on this little book here. Yeah, Kickstarter promo cards. So mini expansion for the base game, and the base game is of course required to play. So basically we've got an extra grizzly bear, which is equal groups. Interesting. So score 1 for size of 1, score 2 for 2, 3 for 3, 4 for 4, something like that. Another one for elk, which is oriented pairs. Also these ones in different orientations. Interesting. Nearby diversity. That's interesting. So I think you get 2 points for, or 3 points for the salmon here. You get 2 points for the bears and 1 point for the hawk. Okay, another quite interesting scoring. And then the red-tailed hawk again on the edge. I'm noticing that the art here for these expansion cards, or these extra cards, are the same, or is the same as the art in some of these other ones in the base game as well. So just a different scoring pattern and a different description, or a different tag, I guess, title. So on the edge, so on the edge of other paired of animals, on the edge of other animals, if they're surrounding animals on one side but completely empty on the other side, you get score for that, and that's a really high scoring one if you get up to 30 of them. Gathering salmon, so I guess this is salmon surrounded by, score each run of 3s plus salmon for each adjacent animal group size. Okay, so you're scoring the salmon based on the sizes of the groups next to them. Similar thing to the foxes, but slightly different. So that's those extra 5 cards as well, with a little bit of extra explanation of what those things do as well. So yeah, really nice. I do really like the cards. I have to say the cards look really good. They're really pretty. They've got really nice artwork on them. They're good size. They've got some interesting mechanics here. I do like how different each of the animals is in terms of the way it scores. But that's all the cards then. So then I guess really the final thing here is just the tokens. So let's pour some of these out, and then we can look at one example of each of the token types. There's the bear, there's the salmon, there's the fox, there's the hawk, and there's the elk. Nice, I like those. I have to say, I really like these. I think they're really nice. But I think these function really well. And if I just grab one of the boards really quickly, you can see that they sit really nicely on top of these. So that would go there because I can have an elk on that one. Salmon can go on that one there. And then the fox can go on that one there. That's the bear. Have I got any bear spaces? There's a bear there. Whoops. And the hawk can go there, and they just sit really nicely. They're really obvious when you've put a thing on them, and that works really, really well just to kind of play the game out. And that's really what you end up doing, right? You're building a board a little bit like this and then putting these tokens on from a central pool, and each time you pick a tile and a token, put them together or put them down and place them in your environment, and from there you then get the score based on the points on the card. So that's it then, that's everything you get in the box. This is a really nice looking game, I have to say. You've got some really nice tiles, you've got some decent little tokens here. Now the tokens I didn't mention before, but you could easily just pour these out of this big Ziploc bag into this canvasy bag here, because that's where you're going to actually draw them from in the game, I believe. That's why they're all sort of discs rather than specific shapes, because you need to be drawing them randomly. I think that's the idea, so you can't feel which one is which, and that would explain why you don't have specific kind of shapes of meeples, specific custom meeples there. You could have, of course, do it with little cubes, but this is nice with these printed discs instead. Big bag of those, some really nice cards. I think these are the most interesting thing to me, actually, are the way that this is scored at the end. It's going to make for some really diverse games. It should be relatively straightforward to play and get started with, but I can see there being a lot of strategy involved in placement and what you pick at what time and how you use your kind of wildlife tokens and all of those kinds of things in order to score very high points. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please check out some of my other videos. As I say, there will be a Calico video going up on this channel as well, so keep an eye out for that. Keep smiling, thank you very kindly, and I will see you all in the next one.